everyone. Thank you for watching Pepperjam Network how-to videos. My name is Chris and I'm an associate here at Pepperjam. And today we're going to take a walkthrough of the Pepperjam interface. So we'll talk about some of the best ways to manage your affiliate program in terms of managing and recruiting publishers who will be the best fit for your program. We'll take a look at some of the best ways to communicate with publishers, some of the different creatives and promotional tools that you have available to give to publishers. And we'll also take a look at some of the reporting and analytical tools that you have to view your program's overall trends and performance. So let's go ahead and get started. So you'll see we're logged onto the home page, and this is what you'll see when you first log onto your program. And it gives you a quick snapshot of everything that's going on for the program. So keep in mind that the navigation bar is located on the left-hand side for different tabs and navigation within the program. And then you'll see a list of your notifications, program status, and financial summary, and then some highlighted graphs that you'll want to view when you're first logging into your program. We do have a new feature available that allows you to track KPIs or key performance indicators. And this allows you to set this up so that you can view how your program is performing in terms of the key metrics of success that you're viewing for the program. So you can choose between 1 and 3 top KPIs to use that will display within your dashboard, and then you'll see those located here. So you can get an idea of the current goal and then if you're able to achieve the actual within your program. And we'll talk more about setting up KPI goals in a little bit here as well. Underneath that, you'll notice that you have an overall performance graph, and you can view that based on the current month, or maybe you wanted to view the previous month. And you can also compare that data year over year or period over period to get an idea of how your program is performing. You can also view this graph based on some different metrics, including revenue, conversion rate, return on ad spend, transaction count, spend, and traffic. Underneath that, you'll see a list of your top 10 performers. And it's a good idea to keep an eye on this to see who's performing well within the program, and then take a further look at that publisher, or maybe reach out to that publisher to see how they can continue that success and the different types of ways to optimize that partnership. So you'll see a list of your top 10 performers here, and you can also view this on the current month, or maybe you wanted to look at the previous month. You can also view this graph by looking at revenue, conversion rate, return on ad spend, transaction count, spend, and traffic. So it's a good way to get an idea of which publishers are performing within the program and some different metrics besides just revenue for the program. One of the most important things that you want to take a look at when you first log in is the notification section. And in the notification section, you'll see a few things show up. First, you'll see pending applications from publishers that are looking to join your program. So you always want to take a look at who those publishers are and decide on whether you're going to accept or decline them from the program. And maybe reach out to that publisher if you have any questions before deciding to accept them. You may also see transaction errors show up in the notification section, and transaction errors can show up for a variety of different reasons. Maybe it was a duplicate order or a duplicate transaction, or if you've added a bulk file, you may see some errors with your file show up here as well. So if you're unsure of why you're seeing a certain error, definitely reach out to the Advertiser support team. Or if you can confirm why you're seeing the error and you're able to dismiss it, you can always dismiss the errors from your view. And while we're talking about that as well, we'll go up to the Mail tab, and you'll see the option to contact customer support. And you can submit a question, whether it was about transaction errors or any question that you might have for the program, and our Advertiser support team will follow up with you as soon as possible. So back on the dashboard, you'll see you may also find unresolved transaction inquiries from publishers, and they'll show up in your notification section. And this happens when a publisher might have a question about the amount of commission they received and they wanted to make sure this was straightened out. They can submit a transaction inquiry. And you can review the details there, and if you're able to accept, you can accept it. Or if you have any questions, you can reach out to that publisher to discuss the details. You may see some other notifications show up here in terms of any industry news or interface updates. And then you'll also see tips from our team, which are updated on a seasonal basis and often with different types of strategy tips. So definitely take a look at that for some ideas on how you might want to manage your affiliate program. Under the notifications section as well, you'll see a list of new and notable publishers, and these are updated often by our publisher development team. For anyone that's new to the network or maybe driving traffic on the network, and it's a good way to see which of these publishers might be a good fit for the program and has potential to be recruited. You may also see a sign-up form for an upcoming webinar if there's a webinar coming up, or you'll also see a sign-up form for the live demo. We do hold a live Advertiser demo every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're interested in joining a live demo and you have some extra questions about the interface, definitely join one of those, and you'll find the sign-up form in the notification section. And then lastly, in the notification section, we have an offer newsletter that goes out to all publishers in the beginning and middle of each month. And it's a good idea to submit any promotions or offers that you have coming up, as this will get sent out to all publishers. And it's a great way to make sure your promotions are seen on the network. And you can submit your form by clicking the link, and it brings up a Google form where you can submit your advertiser details and then any promotional details or code that might go along with it as well. Another important thing to take a look at on your dashboard is your financial summary. So you'll notice that you have your beginning balance, any deposits that were made, and any current charges and commissions that will add up to your current funds available. So your program may be one of two payment methods. You may be an auto escrow program, which means you're paying by credit card. And if you're an auto escrow program, it's required that you have a minimum amount of $1,500 available at all times. And if it ever falls below that amount, the system will automatically pull funds from the card in order to bring the balance back up. And if you ever have an error with the card, maybe an expiration date or something like that, you'll get a notification email as well as in your notification section. So definitely be sure you have your updated card info within the program. And the other type of payment method is net terms. So you're paying your invoice based on a certain period of time or for that month. And if you're a net terms program, you may have a negative amount of funds available based on the amount of commissions that's set to be paid out to publishers. So while we're taking a look at that, let's go up to the account tab and we'll take a look at viewing your program's invoices and how to manage funds for the program. So we'll go up to the account tab on the upper right side, and first we'll go to invoices. So the invoices page gives you a list of all the current invoices for the program, and you can select a certain invoice if you wanted to view what period or month that was for, what the amount was, what the balance was at the time, whether it was paid or unpaid. And you can view any payments that possibly apply to the invoice. And then you can click View to bring up the actual invoice. And you'll see your date range listed on the top, as well as a past due summary for any prior period balance or payments that were made. And then you'll see a summary of your current activity for that particular month listed in the middle. And you'll see a line for network commission or site commission, as well as a line for publisher commission, any other services or fees that possibly applied on this invoice, and then any commission adjustment for publisher or network commissions. So if you had some cancellations or returns and you made these corrections within the program, you'll see those apply here on the invoice as well. And you'll notice that these are highlighted so you can't actually click on them. So I'll click on publisher commissions. And it brings up the invoice activity report with the list of all the transactions that took place during this particular invoice period. And you can view some more details if you wanted to filter by publisher or look up an individual order ID. I also clicked on publisher commission, which is bringing me to this page with a credit debit filter of credit. But if I just wanted to view the corrected orders that are listed within this invoice, I could select that as debit. Or if I wanted to view everything together, I could click all. So we'll go back up to the account tab, and right above invoices is your option to manage funds. So here you can add a payment profile, or you can edit your existing profile. And you can also add a second card if you'd like to include a backup card, and just select which card you'd like to use as the default for the program. You also have the option to add funds here. So although if you're an auto escrow program, it's required that you have a minimum amount of $1,500 available at all times. Maybe you have a big sale coming up and you're expecting a large amount of commissions from publishers. You can always manually add funds to the program whenever you'd like as well. So while we're on the account tab, Let's go up and take a look at how she creates sub-users for the program. So we'll go to Manage Sub-Users. So every program has one main user or one main login, but it's likely that you have a few people that might be assisting with managing the program. And you can create their own access or their own email that they'll be able to use when they log into the program by creating a sub-user account for them. So to add a new sub-user, you can go up to the right side and click Add Sub-User, and then include the email address and password that they'll be able to use when they log in. And then you'll notice that there's a number of different roles available. So you can choose to, maybe you wanted to give them the option to read and edit your creatives, you can just select those roles. Or if you wanted to give them every role that's available, you can do that as well. So it's up to you when you're creating a sub-user for the program. You'll also notice that sub-users have communication preferences. So maybe you wanted somebody from your accounting team to receive your billing emails. Maybe you wanted someone from your technical team to receive your integration emails. You can set up their communication preferences for their sub-user account here as well. So we'll go back to the home page, and if you ever need to get back to the home page, you can always click on the Pepperjam logo in the upper left-hand corner. So we mentioned in the beginning that you may see pending applications from publishers that are looking to join your program. And so you can take a look at that by clicking right on Pending Applications, and that brings you to the Manage Publishers page with a list of publishers who have applied to the program. But you can also get to the Manage Publishers page by going to the Publishers tab and clicking Manage Publishers. And you'll notice that there's a number of different ways to filter through here, whether you wanted to look up a company name or website URL to see if they're joined within Pepperjam. And an important filter to take a look at is the status filter. So you'll see we're looking right now at publishers who are joined to the program, but maybe you want to look at publishers who have applied to decide whether you're going to accept or decline them from the program. You can also look at publishers who you've invited to the program. And it's a good idea to go back and review some of those publishers who you've invited and maybe reach out to them again to see if there's anything else that they need in order to join. When you're initially recruiting publishers to the program, you'll want to go to the status filter and then select No Relationship. So you'll notice when you're looking at a large list of publishers that publishers have a blue bar underneath their name, and that indicates their transparency rating on the network. So the transparency rating goes from 0 to 5, and 5 being the best, and it's basically an indication of their level of responsiveness and communication within the network. So you may want to start off your search by filtering by transparency. Maybe you want it to filter by publishers of a level 5 or a level 4. And that's not to say that a publisher that might be a lower transparency rating is necessarily a bad publisher. They may even just be new to the network, but you might want to reach out to them first to start a conversation before you decide to accept or decline them from the program. You want to include a few other filters here when you're looking for publishers as well. And you can include one for category. So maybe you wanted to select clothing and apparel, for example. And then you can also include a filter for promotional methods. So I can take a look at blog sites within the clothing and apparel category with a level 5 transparency. And you'll notice that some publishers have a blue and white P next to their name, and that indicates that they are a premier publisher on the network. And premier publishers need to be on the network for at least a year. They need to generate a certain amount of revenue, and they're very responsive to any questions or communication that you have. So especially if you've recently launched your program, take a look at who some of the premier publishers are within the category and promotional methods that you're taking a look at. In the filter section as well, you can add some additional keywords. So maybe you wanted to narrow your search to a specific niche within that category. You can include some keywords here. When you're looking at publishers as well, you always want to get more info on that publisher to see if they'll be a good fit for the program and if you're willing to accept them or you want to invite them to the program. So to get more info on a publisher, you can click on their name and it brings up the publisher details report. And you'll see their website and any additional sites that they have associated with it. You'll also see their customer reach, so if they have any type of international reach, or if they've applied to the program, you can view their full contact info. But if they have no relationship to the program, or if they've just been invited to the program, you can't view their full contact info. But we highly recommend going to their site to see if they have a contact page or a best contact there. But if you have any questions on getting in contact with publishers, definitely reach out to the Advertiser support team. You can also view their term, and if they're joined to the program, you can view their term history for any term that they have fallen under in the past. It's a good idea as well to check out their promotional methods to see some of the different ways in which they promote and if they are in line with what you're looking for from a publisher within the network. And if you have any quality issues, maybe you've seen some fraudulent activity or a publisher has been violating your terms and conditions, definitely reach out to the quality team by reporting a quality issue here. And then last, you'll see that there's a social media footprint page to show you whether there's an Instagram or Facebook account that might be associated with this publisher account. Another useful feature of this page is to create publisher groups. So you'll see a drop-down menu for any group that you may be created. And once you create publisher groups within the program, you can use them in different areas like sending newsletters and then also viewing your reports based on those groups that you've created. So it definitely helps to manage publishers, and you might want to create groups based on different publisher categories like loyalty or coupon sites, or maybe you want to create a group for your top 5 or top 10 publishers. So to create your group, you can click on Manage. And you'll see a list of your existing groups here as well. And to create a new group, you can go to Add Group. And it's a page that's similar to the Manage Publishers page where you can filter through by different categories and promotional methods to find the publishers you'd like to add to this new group. On the Manage Publishers page as well, you'll see the option to either invite a publisher or schedule them into a new term over on the right side. So you'll see their status listed down the middle, but you'll also see the term that the publisher currently falls under on the right side, and then the option to change that term or revoke the publisher from the program. So maybe you wanted to adjust this publisher to a new term. You'll select the term from the drop-down menu, and then click Schedule Term. But it's important to note that publishers require 7 days notice for a change in term. So if you ever want a publisher to join that term sooner than that, you can check the Allow Early Acceptance box before clicking Schedule Term, and then just reach out to that publisher to let them know they can accept the new term as soon as possible. And then for whatever reason, if you wanted to revoke a publisher from your program, maybe they're violating your terms and conditions, or you just wanted to remove them, you can always revoke a publisher at any time. You can also use the calendar feature, so maybe you wanted to choose a date that you'd like this term change to take place. You can use that to schedule this ahead of time. So while we're talking about adjusting publisher terms, let's go ahead and take a look at how to create terms for the program, and then we'll also look at some of the different rules and conditions that are available with dynamic commissioning. So we'll go over to the Settings tab, and you'll see an option for your commission terms. The display of this page will vary based on the pixel type that you are using. And for this demo, we are using a dynamic account. If your program is not using dynamic, definitely reach out to the Advertiser support team, and we'll follow up with the next steps to get set up and upgrading the program to our dynamic tracking. So when you're viewing this page, you'll see a list of all the terms for the program, what the default payout is, what the cookie duration is, the date that it was created, if there are any assigned publishers, and the action column. If there are assigned publishers, you can click on that number, and it brings you back to the Manage Publishers page with a filter for any publisher that currently falls under that term. It's important to note here as well that once you create a term, you can't delete it from the program, but you can use the action column to hide it from your view. So maybe you have a large amount of terms set up and you wanted to make sure that you're cleaning up this page so that some of your outdated terms are no longer viewed. You can just hide them from your view here. So let's go ahead and create a new term. So we'll go up to the right side and click on Create New Term. So you want to give your term a name, whether it's an updated default term or maybe it's for a specific publisher or promotion, so that you can view this term within the program. And then you'll want to choose your cookie duration. After that, you'll want to choose your payout, whether it's a sale percentage or a flat amount. And for this example, I'm using 5% as the default payout. You'll also want to choose your payout level, so whether it's on the item level or the order level. Item level applies to each individual item within the order, and order level applies to the total order value. If this is all I wanted to set up was a basic term with a 5% payout and a 30-day cookie duration, I could click Save Term, and then this will be available for me to use within the program and assign to publishers. But if you're utilizing dynamic commission, you have a lot of options in terms of how you're adjusting your payouts to publishers based on the things that you value for the program. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the different rules and conditions that are available. So we'll click on Add New Rule, and you'll want to give your rule a name as well, and then choose your rule level. And I'm going to choose item level for this example. So let's take a look at some of the different conditions that are available when you're creating dynamic terms. The first set of conditions are order conditions, and you can adjust your payout to publishers based on product lists that you've created. And you can either start typing your list name or use the magnifying glass to search. You also have the ability to add item categories within the program. So if you have added some item categories, you can adjust your payout based on those categories. So maybe you value the sale of a certain category more than others, and you wanted to give publishers an incentive when they're able to generate that sale. You can adjust that term here. You also have the option to adjust this based on coupon code use. And you'll want to make sure that your pixel is set up to track this correctly. So if you have any questions or if you're unsure if your pixel is tracking by coupon code, definitely reach out to the Advertiser support team and we'll follow up with the next steps there. But once that is set up, you can adjust this based on whether a coupon has been used, has not been used, matches a specific code, or even starts with. You'll also have the option to adjust this based on order amount. So for example, you might want to say any publisher that's able to generate an order that's greater than $100 will get an increased commission. And it helps to incentivize publishers to generate higher order values for the program. And then last, under the order conditions column, you'll see that you have the option to edit this based on quantity of items in the order. And you can select this based on all items, items with a certain SKU, items from a certain product list, or items from a specific category. The next set of conditions you have available are publisher conditions, and you have two options available here. The first one is number of transactions by publisher. So maybe you wanted to say any publisher that's able to generate 50 or more sales per month will get a commission increase for the remainder of the month. And you can also adjust this based on transaction sale amount by publisher for that month. So maybe you wanted to give a publisher a $500 threshold, so that if that publisher achieves 500 or more in sales for the month, they'll get an increased commission for the remainder of the month. And it gives you a great way to incentivize publishers based on the amount of sales and traffic they've been able to generate for the program. The next set of conditions that are available are customer conditions, and you have two options here. And the first one is new to file. So similarly to the coupon code use, you'll want to make sure that your pixel is set up to track this correctly. And you'll also want to make sure that you've identified how you're looking at a new customer, whether it's a completely new set of email or info, or maybe someone that hasn't shopped in the last 6 months or the last year. And the other option under customer conditions is device type. So you can adjust this based on desktop, mobile, or tablet devices. So maybe you wanted to give publishers an incentive to generate sales through mobile devices. You can adjust that here as well. And the last set of conditions that are available are creative conditions. You have two options here as well, and the first one is creative type. So this is based on certain types of creatives. So maybe you prefer that a publisher uses banners, for example. You can set this up so you're giving the publisher an incentive to use that type of creative within the program. Every creative has a unique ID within the program, so you can choose specific creatives as well. And you can start typing your creative ID to locate the creatives and then add these to your rule. So to continue with our example, we're going to go back to the customer conditions option and then choose new to file. And then I will click save condition. So now that we have a new to file condition set up, I'll need to choose an action that's going to apply when the condition is met. So I can choose to add a percentage or add a flat amount. So for example, I can add an additional 2%, so that a publisher will get 7% total commission whenever they're able to generate a new customer sale. You can add additional conditions here as well. So I'll go to add new condition and go back to publisher conditions, and we'll say transaction sale amount is greater than or equal to 500. So now the publisher will need to achieve both of these options in order to get that increased commission. You can also add more rules within one term. So maybe you wanted to add another rule, and I'll create a mobile rule. And we'll go back to customer conditions and choose device type is mobile, and then click save condition. So I'll need to choose an action for this rule as well. So I could choose to add an additional 2% whenever it's on a mobile device versus a desktop, but it's likely that you have a cap in commissions that you're able to pay out to publishers. But you can still set up multiple rules within your term and just adjust this so that it's fitting what you're looking to use for publishers in the program. So what you can do is choose the rule that you're going to value the most and then move it down in the order of rules. So I'll move the new customer rule so that it's last in the order. And then I'll use the action column to choose either equals percentage or equals flat amount. So for this example, I'll choose equals percentage, and maybe we'll say that any publisher that's able to achieve new to file sales that are equal or greater than 500 for the month will get 8% for the remainder of the month. That still gives them the option to earn an extra 2% when a sale occurs on a mobile device versus a desktop, but they can only get a max amount of 8% under this term. And we'll go back to the commission terms page, and if you want to add a bulk amount of publishers to a new term, or maybe you just wanted to choose a term and then mimic it and make some small adjustments, what you can do is clone the term. So we'll click on an existing term, and it brings up the details here. You'll also see an option to make a term your default, so it will be the automatic term that applies when you're accepting publishers or inviting them, unless you're manually choosing a different term. And then you'll also see the option to clone the term here. So we'll click on clone term, and you can update the term name and then make any changes that you'd like. So for example, you can adjust your payout value, or maybe you wanted to add some additional rules to this term. You can make any changes that you'd like, and then you can click save term, and the term will be available for you to use within the program. But it's important to note that if you have publishers that are currently joined to this term, you'll want to check the transfer publishers box before clicking save term, as this will move the existing publishers into the new clone term. But it's important to note that publishers do require that 7 days notice for a change in terms, so they won't automatically move into the new term, but they will be given the option to accept this once they receive it. So we've talked a lot about communicating with publishers as well, so let's take a look at some of the best ways to communicate with your publishers for the program. So you'll see an option under the Publishers tab to send newsletters. You can view this by going to the Mail tab on the upper navigation bar as well. So you can view a list of the newsletters that have been sent, or maybe some saved drafts for the program, or you can create a newsletter. So we'll click on Create Newsletter, and then here you can choose to send it to all publishers, or maybe you wanted to select specific publishers, or as we mentioned before, maybe you've created some publisher groups and you just wanted to send this newsletter to that group within the program. So you'll choose the name and then the subject line for the newsletter, and then use HTML to build out the body of the newsletter. But if you don't have an HTML software that you use, I would recommend using a free software like Composer. It's important to note when you're creating a newsletter is that you have the option to tag specific items here. So you can choose to add a generic tag. For example, maybe you wanted the publisher's first name to automatically generate, and then you can include some specific creative tags. And then you can include some specific creative tags. And this option is great as it allows publishers to grab your affiliate link directly from the newsletter when they receive it, and they won't need to log into their publisher account to grab the link. So especially if you've recently added some new creatives, or you have some creatives that you prefer publishers use, be sure to tag them within your newsletters. And once you're finished, you can either send yourself a preview to make sure everything looks good, or you can preview it in your browser. You can save it as a draft and come back to work on it later, or you can click Queue for sending, and the system will get ready to process the HTML and send this out. You can also schedule newsletters ahead of time. So maybe you wanted to create a few newsletters ahead of time and then schedule them for specific dates and times to be sent. And we recommend getting on the cadence of sending newsletters often, whether you wanted to send one on a weekly basis or at least a monthly basis with any new products or updates or opportunities that you have, so that publishers are informed of the best ways to promote your program. Another great way to communicate with publishers is to send and receive emails. So you can send and receive emails from your account by using the publisher mail feature, or you might want to reach out to publishers directly through the email that you most often use. Be sure to reach out to publishers often to discuss the program and any potential opportunities that they have, as they're going to be your best guide for what might work for the partnership and the best ways to optimize with them. So as we were talking about tagging some of your specific creatives within newsletters, let's go over to the Creatives tab and take a look at some of the different creatives and promotional options that you have available in the program. So we'll go to the Creatives tab. The first one down is your generic link. Your generic link is usually a link to your homepage, and then you'll see whether you have deep linking enabled. And deep linking allows publishers to link to a specific product page on your site other than your homepage. So for example, if a blogger wanted to highlight a certain product, they could link right to that product page other than your homepage, as long as you have deep linking enabled. You'll also have the option to add destination URL parameters here. So if you're using a third-party tracking software like Google Analytics, you can include your extra destination URL parameters here, and then click Save, and then these will automatically append to all the links within the program. So the first type of creative we'll take a look at are banners. And it's a good idea to have multiple size banners available for publishers to use so that they can find the one that will best fit their site. So let's take a look at some of the different fields that are available when you're creating a banner. So you'll want to choose the name for the banner, whether it's for a logo or a specific product page, and then I recommend including the pixel size so that a publisher has an idea of how large the banner is as well. You can choose some additional promotional methods, so maybe you wanted to add notes for a specific sale, or maybe this is related to free shipping. And then you can choose the destination URL, or where you'd like this banner to link to. If you have any alternative message or additional description that you'd like to add here, you can include that as well. And you can also adjust your deep linking based on individual creatives. So maybe you have deep linking enabled for the program, but you wanted to make sure that this banner, for example, will go right to the page that you want to designate. You can disable deep linking just for this specific creative so that publishers are using it appropriately. And the two final options here are available for all the creatives within the program, and you'll see the option to adjust your visibility to public or private. So if it's public, any publisher that's joined to your program can view and use that creative. Or if it's private, you can select individual publishers you'd like to be able to use this creative. And then you can also adjust the status. So you can set it to active so that any publisher that's joined to your program can view and use that creative, unless you've set it to private, or you can set it to inactive so that it'll still be available within your Advertiser program, but publishers won't be able to view or use it. So maybe you have a seasonal creative that you don't necessarily want to delete from the program, and you wanted to reference it as a future creative or maybe use it again next season. But if you set it to inactive, publishers won't be able to use it. You can also set up a date range for your creative. So maybe you have a specific sale and you've added some banners or specific creatives related to that. You can set up your start and end date around your promotional dates as well. So under the Creatives tab, you'll see the option to adjust text links for the program. And text links are a great tool to give publishers if they don't have the full space for a banner. And it's basically a line of text that might be highlighting a specific product or promotion that you have going on, and it gives publishers the ability to choose this type of creative if it fits their site. Creating a text link is very similar to creating a banner in terms of some of the different options. You'll just need to choose your link anchor text and then any of the additional options you'd like to include. One thing I will note when you're creating text links is that you can use the copy feature. So maybe you wanted to make just adjustments to your anchor text or some slight adjustments to your descriptions. You can use the copy feature to edit a large amount of text links at one time. Another type of creative you have available are coupons. And coupons show up in an RSS feed for publishers, so even if you don't have a specific coupon, you may want to emulate some of your text links here. And you can always have no code required if it's not related to an actual coupon code. But you could certainly include any coupons that you might have here as well. You can also set this up to be public or private if you'd like to assign it to specific publishers. So one thing I will point out in relation to your creatives for the program is that your product feed is now listed under settings. So you'll see the settings tab, and you can click on product feeds. And here you can make any adjustments to your product feed or view your feed information. And although it's not required that you have a product feed for the program, we highly recommend having one set up. So if you have any questions on updating your product feed, definitely reach out to the Advertiser support team. So while we're under the settings tab, let's take a look at some of the different setting options that are available within the program. As we mentioned in the beginning, one of the first things you'll see when you log onto your homepage is your KPI goals. So to update your KPI goals, you can go to the settings tab and click set KPI goals. And you'll see a list of the options here, including average order value, spend, click active publishers, conversion rate, percentage of new users, return on ad spend, revenue active publishers, revenue growth, and traffic growth. It's important to note that the percentage of new users option is only available if you utilize dynamic commissioning. So on this page, you can adjust your goals, and it's important to keep in mind that your goals will lock on the first of the month. So up until the first of the month, you can make any adjustments you'd like, but you want to make sure that your goals are set up when the first of the month comes. So as we mentioned earlier, you'll want to choose one of 3 top KPIs that will display on your program's dashboard, but you can set up goals for other KPIs as well and then view them in your KPI reporting. And once everything's finished, you'll want to save your goals so that this is updated for the program. Another option underneath your settings tab is attribution settings, and I'll click on attribution settings so we can view this page. You will also need to utilize dynamic commissioning in order to access either of these features. And you'll notice under the attribution settings, you'll see the option to adjust your code suppression settings and also your in-cart settings. For more info on how to set these up for your program, reach out to the Advertiser support team. So next, let's take a look at the transactions tab. And you have a few options under the transactions tab, including the option to bulk upload new transactions or bulk upload corrections for the program. And you'll see the documentation to upload a CSV file if you need to bulk upload any new transactions or maybe you're bulk uploading your corrections. You'll see a quick link here for modifying your commissions. We'll take a look at how to correct commissions within the program once we go into the reports tab as well. But I wanted to point out that you do have a quick link here from your transactions tab. And here you can also manage bonuses for publishers. So maybe if you gave publishers a certain sales goal, or you wanted to issue a specific bonus to them, you can come to this page to give a publisher a bonus through the interface. And then you'll also see an option to view your transaction inquiries or transaction errors. So let's go up to the reports tab and take a look at some of the different reports and analytical tools that you have available to view your program's performance. So underneath your reports tab, the first one we'll take a look at are the performance reports. And you have 2 options on this tab. You'll see your overall performance, which lists your performance day by day. And you can choose your date range if you wanted to choose a standard range like the past 30 days or maybe the previous 6 months, or you can choose an exact range. You'll notice you also have the option to group your data by day, week, or month. So especially if you're looking at a larger time frame like the previous 6 months, you may want to group this by week or month for a better view. So here you'll see your data for impressions, clicks, the amount of revenue generated, commission, transactions, and conversion rate. And if you've had your program going for over a year, you can compare this data year over year, or you can compare it period over period if you're looking at a month versus the previous month. You can also adjust this graph to show revenue but maybe you wanted to show this by impressions, clicks, commission rate, transactions, or conversion rate. And then lastly, under this as well, you'll have the option to save this report if you want to come back and view it later, or you can download a copy for your reference if you'd like to download an Excel version. Underneath the Performance tab as well, you'll see the option to view your publisher performance. If you're familiar with Pepperjam, this was recently updated, and it used to be called the Transaction Summary Report. So keep in mind that this is located under your Performance tab as the Publisher Performance Report. And you have a number of different ways that you can filter through this report. If you wanted to look up an individual publisher ID, maybe use one of the publisher groups that you have created. You can filter by US state, and you can also filter by promotional type if you wanted to just look for blog sites or coupon sites, for example. Another feature of this report is to take a look at this data year over year or period over period. You'll want to keep in mind that the publisher would need to be joined to the program for that amount of time before you're viewing that info. Underneath your performance report, you'll have the option to view your transactions, and there are 3 reports located here, including your transaction history summary, your transaction history report, and an important one that we'll take a look at right now is the transaction details report. And you'll want to take a look at this report often, as it lists all the transactions that have taken place for the program at the time frame that you'd like to view. So you can choose your standard range or your custom range. You can also add some optional columns here. So I'm going to add a column in for device type, new to file, coupon code use, and creative ID. You can look up an individual creative ID, look up an order ID, view this report based on publisher group, new to file, creative type, or look up an individual coupon code. And in this report as well, you'll see the publisher that generated the sale, what their company name is, the term that they fell under when they were able to generate the sale, and the remainder of the details for that specific order. This report is important to view often. If you have any corrections that you need to make, you want to make sure that you're correcting them in the system before they lock. So every program has a locking period, whether it's 30 days, 45 days, or 60 days. And whenever an order occurs, it will remain pending for that period of time, but after which it will lock within the system and you won't be able to make any corrections. So you want to view this report at least weekly to make any corrections needed so that they don't lock within the system and get set to be paid out to the publisher. So for example, if you had some returned orders, you can come here. You can also access this page by going to the Transactions tab, and it'll quick link to this page as well. So maybe you wanted to look up the order ID that you need to correct, and then you can come over to see the status, whether it's pending, locked, or paid. If it's pending, you can still make corrections to it, and you'll go to the action column and click correct, and then make any adjustments that you need to. So maybe you need to completely zero out this order if it was a full return, or if it was a partial return, you can make the adjustments needed, and then you'll see the adjusted amount show up in your transaction details report. It's important to note as well that you can click on the term that the publisher fell under when they generated this sale to view the order commission rule report, which shows you if the publisher was able to achieve any of the commission rules that you had set up. So maybe you're looking at a specific order and you're wondering why a publisher achieved that amount of commission. You can click on that term to view the order commission rule report to get some more info. So next, let's take a look at your creative reports. So you have an option to view a creative performance report and also a creative performance by publisher report. And this is a great report to view to see which creatives are performing well within the program and also with individual publishers to get some more insight into what might be working for the program and what creatives you might like to tag within your next newsletter, or maybe you want to emulate those for future creatives in the program. Next, let's take a look at your item level reports. And you have an option to view this based on itemized transaction summary report or your itemized transaction report. And you have a number of different ways to filter through here if you wanted to view the individual publisher ID, order ID, publisher group that you've created, or look up an individual item ID. And this is a great report to view to see which individual products are performing well, not only with specific publishers, but maybe in the affiliate channel versus other channels. And it gives you some more insight into what you might like to use for your strategy within your affiliate program. Under the option to view program financials, you'll also have the ability to view your invoice activity report. If you remember, earlier in the demo, we viewed invoices, and there's also a quick link to this report there, but you can also access this through the Reports tab. Under the Reports tab, you'll also see the option to view your KPI goal reports. So here you can view more info on each individual KPI for the program. And you may want to view this report as well, even if you haven't set a goal, just to see what your program's actuals might be for each individual KPI. If you're utilizing either the attribution features like in-cart or suppress code, you'll view the option to see your attribution reports here. And to get more details on viewing these specific reports, reach out to the Advertiser support team. And lastly, I wanted to point out that under the Resources tab, you'll see a number of different options here in terms of technical documentation like API, tracking integration. And you'll also see our Knowledge Center. The Knowledge Center has a lot of best practices, walkthroughs, different how-tos, as well as how-to videos. So be sure to check that out as a reference for any of the pages that you might want to access on Pepperjam. But you can always feel free to reach out to the Advertiser support team if you have any questions. And that is the end of our video. Thank you for watching.